set goals for Facebook Watch, even though like I would kind of start off with just highlighting some assumptions on my side. Again, staying off of clarifying questions. I think Nancy, to like our previous like discussion, like just to make sure I understand the entire scope of the decision or the exercise. So just clarifying upfront that from a goals perspective, we are setting goals for engagement and retention, not necessarily monetization. Like, and also I also wanted to have a question for you. Like in these sort of goals conversations, should we generally stay off monetization, or is it fine to have monetization in there?
Well, if you think the goal should be monetization, you can't set it as a goal. I would not ask this question to clarify.
Right.
And the
Well, this is more of my assumption that I'm
oh,
stating rather than a question. Like, so the interviewer can come back and say that no, it's we should include monetization as well.
I would not call it out as an assumption.
Okay. Got it.
And wait, do you understand why I'm saying that?
Yeah, it's just maybe just from the perspective of sounding senior, right? Like, and also just looking at it more holistically.
Well, it's because yes, yes to your
Then,
first
yeah.
comment, but ultimately, when you ask this question, it feels like you are following a formula, which
Hmm.
doesn't come across like you naturally know this thing. The answer is not, yeah, we could assume engagement and retention and non monetization. There's a reason, right? The real reason is we've already seen it happen where if the engagement is high, it naturally drives monetization. There is a correlation. And
Hmm.
monetization is such a lagging indicator, it's not going to help me make decisions in a timely manner because it is just better to goal on a leading indicator versus a lagging indicator,
Hmm.
right? So that is the reason. But when you ask it this way, it feels like you're just memorizing some formula without understanding why. And if you understand why, you wouldn't need to ask this question or you wouldn't need to make an assumption.
Yeah, makes sense. I think
Okay.
I think I kind of have to kind of rethink my entire like clarifying question approach. I know we've talked about it
Yeah.
offline too. I think it's just a lot of muscle memory from watching Exponent and how they describe or recommend doing things. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think there I think approach is more generic. But I think in this case we need to take a different approach.
And do you
Yeah,
understand the difference between the two ways of approaching this question?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good.
Okay, okay, and also, I mean, in from the redesign perspective, the original watch product had the long form video, so just narrowing the scope down to the to that long form video and not
Mm.
like reels live. So just
Okay.
showcasing that fact that this is how watch is organized today, right? Or what was called watch.
Yeah,
Um,
that works.
okay, so from that point, I would kind of go to the lay out my broader structure, which is looking at the goals of the product, the actions to better the user journey and the actions, and then the metrics themselves, right? With any counter metrics and trade-offs. Goals of the product, again, FB mission. I mean, I've skipped that from here because it's just the same for every answer. But how the watch value proposition and how it aligns with the Facebook mission is just so watch as a product showcases high engagement and long form videos from page owners, right, with to their followers and the broader audiences, and in that way it helps people to come together and form communities. So but also I thought of sharing that it's kind of the watch as we know it, or the watch that we are talking about is the predecessor to reels, right? With the key difference that there is no time limit that we typically have with reels. It's short form video. Watch is more of the long form video. An example of that is a 5 minute highlight of a football game that is shared with either football fans or general sports fans, right? That's the kind of video that we are talking about that typically gets featured on watch. And then in terms of other products out there or competition, it's mainly YouTube with the non shorts or the original long form videos. of YouTube. And then I would talk about the North Star, which in plain English is that, how would the watch product be successful is where if creators produce videos that resonate with large and diverse audiences and build community around those videos, right? And how we would numerically capture that is in terms of number of videos watched and average time spent per user. I know we just had the discussion around uh, per user or per day, but this is what I originally had. My rationale around per user is just to make sure that we have active, we make sure that it's not just a few people who are driving most of the time spent, but we have active participation from everyone on the platform.
The okay, average time is volume. Participation is number of users. So in this case, there's two volumes here: number of videos watched
Hmm.
and streaming hours.
Okay. And sorry, how you're defining participation in this?
It's number of users.
Number of users doing what? Like watching videos or?
Yes, yes. Number
Okay.
of users watching
User.
videos.
Okay. That's interesting because it still feels like a, volume metric to me versus participation is more on like
People.
one step beyond the watching, which is how much time are you spending
No,
actually?
participation is
Okay.
how many people are participating in this feature.
Hmm. Okay.
Participation is always active users. And the
Okay.
active just means different things for different products.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So then going over to the user actions, right? Where again, there are two main kind of users because it is a two-sided marketplace in the sense that there is a creator, and in this case, it is a business or a page instead of an individual. And the main actions that they would take are creating the video, tagging it with any other relevant information such as captions, publishing it, and then post publishing, just engaging with the audiences via comments. That is the key actions that a creator would take. I didn't go as much into the monitoring of the likes and comments that the creator would do. Is that something you would recommend here?
It's not critical.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then viewer side, again, awareness, just making sure that they first come in to see, and they have videos to watch, and then viewing your first video, interacting via likes and comments, and then retention is basically coming back to watch more videos or creating your own video, right? And that is where the
Hmm.
virality also comes in. So yeah, so then going to as a next step, then going to the metrics, which is just at the top, just calling out what are the bigger ecosystem metrics, which is for the FB app itself, the daily active users, time spent, creator revenue, and then, well, actually, now that I talk about creator revenue, it kind of conflicts with what I initially said, but active usage and engagement across family of apps, right? So FB app and the family of apps.
Why? Okay. When we're talking about ecosystem metrics, we should explain what it means and not just list out the metrics. So,
Mm,
ecosystem metric is where, as a result of the watch product, these users are using other parts of Facebook more. So, that
okay.
is in plain English, right?
Hmm.
And then we translate that into, as a result of the watch product, there's more DAUs, higher time spent, and more creators,
Mm,
etc. Yeah. So we don't want to come across bookish.
right. I think that is the bigger theme in all of this.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to work on that.
So let me leave
Um,
a note here. Describe, basically, describe in plain English what this means, which is as a result of using Watch, those users are using other parts of Facebook and family of apps.
Okay. Then going to the key KPIs. Here, I think I have a bigger question if like, do we should we split out by long term versus short term? I can go through what I selected, but is that also recommended, Nancy? Like we think about it in both in short term versus long term, or we like make a call based on the what we know about the stage of the product, and maybe call that out. Like for an established product like watch that has been around for a while, we'll look at more of the long term metrics.
I would call out both.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I can then call it out. So I can then think to call it out that way. But from a key KPI perspective for watch, from an awareness perspective, so number of videos that qualified for watch in the last 30 days, right? What is the supply, and number of users that are clicking on the watch tab in the last 30 days, right? And then going from that to the
So
engagement.
what is V and what is P?
Yeah, V is volume and P is
Oh,
participation.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so from an engagement perspective, I broke it down and just generally what would be engagement, and then what I would consider as meaningful engagement. So general engagement perspective, average number of watched video, average number of videos watched per user, and maybe we can do it per day. But meaningful engagement would be where users are watching the videos for a certain amount of duration, maybe 25% by length, right? Number of videos that were watched up to 25% of their length, and average number of likes and comments per user per video. Mhm.
I would not put a number here because we don't know. I would just put X.
Okay.
It could be 7%. Right?
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
be 10%. We don't know. So okay.
Okay. Yeah. And then, yeah, so likes and comments, and then wherever videos are being shared via direct messaging on the family of apps, and then the virality pieces, users who are coming back and creating their own videos on watch. Sorry, not on watch, but in general on the platform.
Sorry, I'm a little bit lost. Is this the creator side? No, this is the viewer side, right?
Actually, I didn't break it down. I'm
Oh,
so in the user journey, I broke it down by creator and viewer. But on the metric side, I have a singular set of metrics that I would track on to understand both sides of the marketplace.
give me 1 second to read it.
Sure.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Is there streaming hours listed somewhere that I missed?
Not in. So I have. I think I have time spent somewhere. No, actually, I don't. I have the time spent in the North Star. I don't have it in
Okay.
here. Here I'm focusing more on number of videos watched and the engagement through likes and comments.
If you had to pick, I guess you already picked in the North Star. Number of videos watched versus streaming hours. What's more important?
I would say streaming hours, I think, is more important, right? Because it talks about time spent. Yeah.
Let me think for a second.
Comment. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say that number of videos watched might be a little lower for watch as opposed to like reels, because the videos are longer by
Mhm.
definition.
Correct.
So people would probably watch fewer videos where the videos are longer.
Well, I think the essence of the product is not so much that we want our users to watch a lot of videos. The essence of the product is we want our we want our videos to be really enticing, that our users keep watching it. So the essence is more on the streaming hour side than the number of videos watched. And also
Mhm.
because the length of the video can vary. And I know that we defined watch as long form content, which is And I don't know what the definition is, but if I'm using the YouTube definition, then long form is above 1 minute. Or
Hmm.
in order for a video to count as a YouTube short, it has to be less than 60 seconds. And so I'm assuming that the flip side of that counts as long form. But if people just keep on watching 2-minute videos, it kind of doesn't really tell me how good my product is because it doesn't really address the essence of the product. And the essence of the product lies more in the streaming hours metric. Yeah, that's how I would justify picking streaming hours in terms of the North Star volume metric versus leaving this here, like number of videos watched as a North Star. That to me is more like a tracking metric.
Got it. I was thinking of time. I mean, yeah, I didn't explicitly call it out as streaming hours, but I was planning on tracking that through the average time spent per user because that would be the
Mhm.
streaming hours. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's not. It's a little different if you are tracking it per user versus, let's say, per day number of streaming hours across all users.
right.
That is probably what you're pointing to.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Let's keep going.
Okay. Okay. So one then I think takeaway I'm having from all of this is also focus less on per user level measurement and focus more on in all of this, whether it's the North Star, whether it's the KPI, focus more on like per day and across the user level measurement and less on per user level measurement.
Well, it's okay, that sounds like a formula, but let's think about the essence of that metric a little
Right,
bit
right.
more. Yeah. So the essence of the metric when it's per user, it doesn't so like at a glance, if I want to understand the success of my product at a glance, I'm not going to get that by looking at volume per user because it doesn't give
Hmm.
me the sense across my entire user base. And that's why, like, you could say the volume per user times
Hmm.
that gives me the entire volume. And that's fine too.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So if your answer is volume per user and DAU, I'll be like, okay, yeah, like those two things together can give me a good sense on how successful my product is at a glance. But by itself, the per user metric doesn't really tell me how successful my product is.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
just leave that as a comment? I can have that in like as part of
Um.
my thinking. Just maybe in the average number of videos watched per user,
Yeah.
or anywhere
Here. Yeah.
really.
Yeah. I'll put it here. How do I say it? This doesn't tell me the picture across entire user base. For example, let's say I only have one user. Let's say I only have one user and this user watched 1 million hours. It doesn't really tell me that the product is successful because it's just one user. And so I
Hmm.
have I have to look at number of users together with this metric.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right. So we talked through most of the key KPIs, like the positive KPIs. Then quickly talk about the guardrail, which is first is the wellness metric, and which is that are people just incessantly glued to watch, which is also what we maybe wouldn't want, and we can define some threshold for that, which is maybe 2 hours per person per day. Any cannibalization, right, that watch may be having on time spent on other services. So in this case, watch, if you look at it at a product level, it competes with attention on newsfeed, marketplace, and some of the other products. If you even like look at the layout of the Facebook app as on today, I don't know if I should. I don't know if live really fits that anymore, but yeah, should definitely we should check impact on newsfeed and time on marketplace, and then those other products that are competing with watch on attention. And
Mhm.
the last piece is relevance, where basically the percentage of videos where a user skipped to the next video where within like the first X seconds, and in this case, X can be maybe the first 3 seconds. So they immediately looked at a video and then they found it, because that is the level at which a lot of people make decisions as to whether or not they will watch a video in the first couple of seconds. So
Yeah.
yeah, we would want to make sure that we are showing relevant videos.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then since we know the follow-up question, one guardrail another guardrail would be the number of reactions, comments, shares that could be cannibalized because people are just watching.
um, oh, okay, okay, that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. So before we begin this next part about the decision making, so one question, and this is kind of goes back to what the recruiter mentioned a little bit, and how this question on decision making can be slightly, it's possible that may be disjointed from the
Mm-hmm.
metric question.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming then it's possible that the metric question is about one product and this is about a completely different product. Is
It's
that
possible.
something that
Yes.
can happen? Okay.
Yeah. It's possible.
Okay. So in that case, then, I mean, in this scenario, because we are talking about the same product, I didn't
Mm.
have any mention of any metrics as such in the way I think DJ had listed out in this section. But then I'm assuming that if those are different products that are across like the first question and the second, then we should mention metrics again in the second question, like in
Yes,
this
that's
question.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. But then you don't have to go very deep, right?
Right.
You don't have to define the North Star. You don't have to define
Right.
the secondary. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think just taking some notes from last time, just making sure that I'm not debugging this, just working on a decision making criteria, and just making sure I understand the scope of what is actually dropping, which is likes and comments is just limited to video, or is it static content as well? It might go
Mm.
slightly in the debugging domain, but the next thing is also just understanding if the interviewer has any information to share on like what is the goal of the redesign, right? Just to make the conversation a little more natural.
Mm.
And exactly what is it that changed? Did we, you know, are we not showing likes and comments more prominently
Mm.
as we were before? That would cause this to happen, right?
Mm.
And then from a clarifying question, sorry, from a hypothesis perspective, I think again, kind of reiterating that any redesign will have some impact, right? Because users are used to one way
Mhm.
of consuming information, and then this is a new way. So some
Mm.
impact is expected. And we what we really should look for is long-term impact on the product in focus and the bigger ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Cool. So in terms of decision criteria, again, just talk about the Facebook mission, but mainly I think emphasize on video. And this is where my evaluation differs a little. I mean, it's on the other side of shipping versus no shipping. Just to call it out up front, is that so video is a key priority for and has been for a long time, right? And then we are going into short form video as the next growth driver for the company. For a product like watch, watching the video itself is a critical measure of success, right? You have to be able to get people to watch the product, watch the videos, and then make sure that watching is good. And then likes and comments, definitely, but they're very important too. But that will only come once someone has watched the video in the first place. So in essence, making watch as the go-to platform for creating videos, and that should be like whatever we need to do to make sure that the watch is the go-to platform for creating videos, and for those videos to get watched, that should be the factor for decision making. Okay. So in terms of like the actual evaluation of like what do we do about this metric movement, which is the next section. So likes and comments are very key, to our mission, right, of being able to bring people together, building communities, and even for creators to assess, right, how the content is resonating. But
Mm.
a higher video watch time doesn't really disrupt our goal of bringing people together, because it is still one person engaging with the other person content. And it also allows for creators to have better viewing of their content and monetization, right? That's very important too for us as a company. And then people may not like and comment. Even if I think of my own consumption patterns, like I don't always like and comment on every single video. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that, I don't find the video relevant, or that I may
Mm-hmm.
not come back. So it's necessarily like, if we are seeing maybe some level of drop in likes and comments, as long as I'm coming back to the product and watching.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, two options: we ship the design, which increases watch time. We make sure we are competitive on watch time, and it decreases the likes and comments, which will have an impact on the sense of community. Or the other option is to roll back, where we preserve the likes and comments, but we sacrifice any gains on watch time. So in this case, I would kind of side with chipping the design, because it protects a key interest for our creators, which is key for watch, right? And then understand ways that we can optimize. Maybe it's a minor design tweak that we can do to get the likes and comments back up. And finally, just basically keep debugging to understand, like, if it is due to, if sorry, just keep seeing that, does the video creation rate like just drop further because there is less engagement on likes via likes and comments, right? Does it have the feedback loop that if people are commenting less, are they then also watching less? And assess the impact on the bigger ecosystem, and then decide, right, yeah, if we continue to see that negative feedback loop, then we roll back.
Yes. So basically, the 10-second answer is we have to look at the ecosystem impact to
Mhm.
assess this decision. Let me think what else is missing.
I think then that's the answer to most of these, right? That we have to look at the
Yeah.
ecosystem impact and kind of mentioning that upfront. Yeah, probably that I should
Yes, correct.
have that.
That's the answer.
Yeah, actually, I
Uh,
have that in. I do call it out in the hypothesis portion, that we need to assess the bigger, what is the impact of this change on the product itself and the bigger ecosystem. Yeah.
yes, correct. You did mention it up front. I'm just wondering if there's anything else to add here that we didn't already talk about. No, I think you covered it. The only thing I would add is what I said before, which is the prompt didn't call out the effect on sharing. So that's another thing that
Mm.
I would look at. Um, and you already called out the downside of decreasing like and comment, which is that validation that creators want and the conversation that we want to happen on the platform. I would add, just anytime when we're talking about commenting being important to Facebook, I would I would double click on what that actually means, which is what I said. Comments is unique to the Facebook platform that
Mm.
we can't replicate anywhere else. That's it, so it has a strategic angle to it. We want more comments on the platform
Mm-hmm.
because people can only be part of that conversation on Facebook and not elsewhere. So losing comments is actually a pretty big deal on Facebook. It
Mm-hmm.
could be detrimental. So it's not a so losing likes, losing reactions, that to me is, not as detrimental. Yes, the creator could feel less validated, but the viewer actually doesn't get a lot of value from reactions. But if I were to lose comments, then that is detrimental. That can be detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would just add that layer of the story a little bit. But other than that, the gist is yes, we need to look at the long term ecosystem impact to assess the ship or no ship.
Got it.
Any questions?
Yes, I think one quick question would be like, and in most of these questions, it's about how you can back up your rationale, right? There is no right or wrong answer, whether it's ship or no ship, right? Do these arguments feel like they are a good rationale to back up the decision? Yeah.
Yeah, they feel good to me and they feel logical to me.
Okay. Cool.
Anything else?
One maybe logistical question, and again, this may be a better question for the recruiter, but while I have you here, is that so? I guess the fact that in the execution question, these two questions can be disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see how we can, how I can account for that in the timing or amount of time I spend, because if it ends up being disjointed, then, and if I don't know that upfront, then I've spent a bunch of time, on the first question, and then
True.
I have less time on the second to lay out everything. So is it typically that they will, you know is it typical that they would share the entire prompt for the first and the second upfront?
Mm.
Or I guess, how do I make sure that I don't overspend my time on the first one, such that if the second one is disjointed, that I don't,
You could just
have
ask
less
them.
time?
You said, "Can you help me understand how long this question is supposed to take so I could better allocate time? Because I know there will be other questions after this question."
Okay, yeah. Or I think that we can put it that way, or maybe just call out that I plan to allocate like maybe 25 minutes, but let me know if I should be doing more, or
I
less.
would target around 15 to 20 minutes for goal setting
Right.
and
Okay.
not,
So just ask the interviewer, like they can tell us. Okay,
yeah, and not more than that. 15 to 20.
right. Would we be asked metrics, trade-off, and debugging? From what I heard, like those were the three types, right?
Yes.
My understanding was that either it could be, I mean, metrics is going to be there for sure, and it's going to be either or between debugging or the trade-off. Is that not the case?
Well, sometimes people don't ask the trade-off question because a lot of candidates don't mention ecosystem metrics in the goal setting.
Mm.
So to get them to think about the ecosystem, we ask them a trade-off question. So if the interviewer
Okay.
is, very calibrated, and if the interviewer has done this interview a lot, they would know that if in the goal setting a candidate already like tells you what the ecosystem metric is, and they have the signal that they need, they could just skip the trade-off question, because the trade-off question is really just the ecosystem question.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a very good point. Okay, good to know.
Mm.
That's how they think. All right.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Bye.